Hughey slowly opened his eyes, feeling more tired than when he had gone to sleep. Sunlight streamed through his window, nearly blinding in its intensity. He rubbed the grit from his eyes and shuffled to the kitchen, overwhelmed by an inexplicable sense of unease. His mother stood at the stove, humming tunelessly as she flipped pancakes. The scent made Hughey's stomach turn. "Good morning, dear," she said, beaming far wider than usual. "Isn't it a lovely day?" Something was definitely wrong. His mother never smiled this much, and the colors drifting in seemed oversaturated. Hughey mumbled a reply and shoved a piece of toast into his mouth, eager to leave. He shrugged on his jacket and pulled open the front door. Mrs. Smith from down the street waved emphatically from her yard, plastered smile never wavering. Hughey hurried past, unsettled. Where was everyone else? The neighborhood was eerily still. When Hughey finally arrived at the empty bus stop, he kicked a stray pebble in frustration. Laughter echoed distantly, but there was no one around. A prickling on the back of his neck told him he was being watched. He started the long walk to school. Shadowy figures seemed to move at the corners of Hughey's vision, always disappearing when he turned. Laughter followed his footsteps, growing louder, closer. Heart pounding, Hughey broke into a run. A fence rushed up and stopped him short, breathless. Over his shoulder, a sickly pale face clung to the slats mere inches away, empty eyes mere sockets in desiccated skin. Hughey stumbled away with a shout just as the head snapped back out of view. He launched into a sprint, adrenaline banishing all fatigue. The school bell rang as Hughey finally approached the towering gates, gasping, but inside, only silence greeted him. "Hello?" His voice cracked through the halls. No response came, save for his own fearful echoes. Hughey's fingers traced locker numbers as he stumbled down the empty corridors, searching desperately for others. Dread pooled in his stomach as he turned into the gym, pulling up short with a strangled cry. Bodies were strewn everywhere in pieces, remnants of faces frozen in final agony. Among them, a hulking figure shrouded in shadow turned its hooded head slowly toward Hughey. Two pinpricks of light peered from the depths of its cowl. A gurgling voice reverberated through Hughey's mind. "I am Ak'Zhar. You will not escape me, little morsel." Jagged claws extended as it prowled closer on all fours. Hughey scrambled away on his back until blocked by a locker. The demon pounced, grasping Hughey's limbs in an unbreakable grip. Fiery agony tore through his flesh as Ak'Zhar sank claws and fangs into his chest. Darkness closed in swiftly, his final screams fading into the void. But then, a strange calm. Pain dulled, and Hughey watched detached as the demon tore into his mangled body again and again, bones crunching between its jaws. His consciousness flickered in and out, senses growing numb. Time bled formlessly. Each reawakening found Hughey's body whole and unmarred once more, trapped motionless under Ak'Zhar as it fed endlessly, savoring each painstaking bite. Hughey's mind fractured under the endless cycles of torment. Snatches of other minds echoed amid the horror, fellow souls imprisoned here in a waking nightmare. Their agony and fading sanity intertwined with his own, an inescapable chorus. Hughey clung to the remnants of self, the lone flicker of hope against engulfing shadow. A sharp pang pierced through the haze, jolting Hughey back to awareness. Ak'Zhar leaned over him, more slick and glistening. Its voice rumbled deep in Hughey's skull. "You fight still, little morsel, but soon, like all before you, mind and spirit will be mine to devour." It dug claws between Hughey's ribs to pry the flesh from bone in slow, reverent peels. Hughey's vision swam dark, consciousness receding when a memory glimmered. Mrs. Smith waving too eagerly that morning on the edge of his awareness. His town, his family, all trapped in this waking nightmare by Ak'Zhar's malice. If Hughey could escape and break the demon's hold, then they might be saved too. Defiance swelled in his heart, banishing agony and despair. Ak'Zhar paused, sensing the change within its prey. Its eldritch voice carried a note of amusement. "Foolish creature, there is no escape from my realm. It tore off Hughey's face in a wet sluice, baring grinning skull and sinew. But inside, Hughey's soul blazed defiantly on, a flare of hope against an ocean of malice. As his body knit itself once more, he focused that inner light, his humanity, his will, to reject the nightmare reality woven around him. Ak'Zhar roared, claws digging in. It picked up the obsidian black bone with glistening crimson-stained fingers, the dim light casting eerie shadows on his face. As he sank his teeth into Hughey's succulent, tender ribs, a symphony of flavors exploded in his mouth. The sweet tang of blood mingled with the chewy undertones of human meat. His teeth tore through the flesh, releasing a chorus of satisfying crunches, and the juices ran down his chin, a messy testament to his carnal indulgence. Ak'Zhar's eyes narrowed in delight as he savored every bite, the rich, sinful taste enveloping his senses. The rib was an intricate mosaic of textures, the crispy, caramelized exterior giving way to the meltingly soft interior. He licked his lips, relishing the contrast between the fiery heat of the oozing blood and the cool relief of his sweat. Around him, the world faded into the background as he surrendered to the primal pleasure of devouring Hughey. Hughey awoke again, broken more than ever. The sensation was as vivid and intense as a waking dream. That night, as darkness fell, a creeping panic gripped Hughey's heart. Sleep was the demon's domain, where it could weave its deceptions and prey upon the vulnerable. But exhausted as he was, sheer will alone could not hold back the tides of Sandman's call forever. Hughey paced his room frantically, flipping on all the lights and turning on the radio full blast. He splashed cold water on his face and slapped his cheeks, anything to curb the weariness settling heavily in his limbs. Snatches of shadow dancing at the edges of sight had him whirling, pulse pounding, only to find empty corners once more. As the long hours dragged on, Hughey watched dawn creep into the sky with dreaded relief. He had survived the night, but barely. Dark bruises bagged his reddened eyes, thoughts fracturing into paranoid fragments. Had Ak'Zhar truly been banished, or did it now stalk the borderlands of this world and the next, waiting to worm its way back into his vulnerable psyche? Hughey fought against his weariness for as long as he could, but eventually exhaustion overcame him. As his eyes fluttered shut, he prayed it would be a dreamless sleep, free from nightmares. Light filtering through his eyelids pulled Hughey back to consciousness. He dared not open his eyes yet, clinging to the hope that he would find himself safe in his bedroom, but already a sense of dread curled in his stomach. Taking a steadying breath, Hughey pried open his eyes. Familiar walls greeted him, but something was off. The colors seemed too bright, as if deliberately saturated. He shot up in bed, heart pounding. Stumbling to the window, Hughey's suspicions were confirmed. Below, Mrs. Smith waved merrily from her garden, smile shining far too wide. Others went about their morning routines, movements just slightly too fluid. Hughey rushed downstairs to find his parents in the kitchen. "Good morning, honey," his mother chirped, beaming wider than humanly possible. Revulsion curdled his insides as Hughey realized with sickening clarity what was happening. Somehow, impossibly, he had fallen back into Ak'Zhar's snare. The demon had found a way to trap him within an endless cycle, toy with his sanity, by forcing him to relive the same perfectly idyllic day over and over. As Hughey gazed into his mother's face, hollow sockets stared back, more stretched taut over needle-sharp teeth. Her hands reached for him, claws glinting. Hughey screamed and backed away in horror, tripping over himself in panic. He was doomed to live this nightmare forever, hunted endlessly while desperately clinging to the fragments of his fragile humanity. Ak'Zhar had won. Hughey would never truly escape this twisted facsimile of his hometown or the demon's insatiable hunger. His suffering would be eternal. Hughey could only curl into a ball and sob as madness closed in, realizing with dreadful finality that there would be no escape from the creatures that now masqueraded as his family or the nightmare that had become his reality. The smiley faces surrounded him, an unending circle of teeth hungry to consume.